Hi everyone, it is Beth with Flying by the Seed of My Plants, and today I am making spaghetti sauce. And this is from the tomatoes throughout the season I have been saving and putting in the freezer. And I had a video prior to that where I cored the tomato and then, or cored it. Yeah, cored it. And then I put an X on the bottom of the tomato and then put them in the freezer bag. And of course that's after I washed them. Cut away any blemishes or bad parts on the tomato. So right now I am defrosting in the sink with the gallon bags. That's what I was putting them in. So I went ahead and filled them up with hot water actually. And so I'm going to go ahead and show you how easy the skins come off, because what I'm going to do with the skins is right now I'm collecting and I'm going to dehydrate the skins of the tomato and making a delicious tomato powder. And you can add that to stews, soups, a roast, anything that you want extra tomato flavoring in, chili. So anyhow, I'm going to take you over there and show you how easy that is. Okay, so I am over at the sink right now, and so I've had these sitting in some hot water, and I am just, you can see how easy that is. The skin comes right off. I mean, it just slides right off. Okay, so I have that much of the skins. So right now I'm just going to put them in a colander. Get all the excess moisture out. This is just all tomato skin. Press it down. Because these are all going to go in the dehydrator. Skins. And I'm just going to start laying them out on the different, on the dehydrator, on the trays. Okay, so I have the dehydrator full of the tomato skins, and I'm going to go ahead and start the dehydrator, and I'll bring you back when these are totally dry. And also I'll keep you up to date on with the tomato sauce. But right now it's just going to be cooking down, so I'm not adding any spices or anything right now. But I do want to get this going. Hi everyone, really quick, this is Sunday and I just wanted to show you the tomato skins are dry from the dehydrator. So right now I'm putting it in my bullet blender, and I just want to powder it up real quick just to show you, how I do it. So I'll empty this tray. They're really crunchy. And this is making the tomato powder. And I have a little pint-sized jar. And you can see I just powdered that up. I've been today's actually now it's Sunday, so I'm adding this to the video. But I've had the dehydrator on and off, so like whenever I went to work I turned it off. So anyhow, that's why it's now Sunday. But if I was off and had the dehydrator running all day, I don't know, probably would have taken maybe 6 hours. Keeps getting fuller. Just a few more to go. The tomato powder. Okay, and there you go. And I will put a mark on here, the tomato powder 2023. And this you add to soups, like beef stew, things like that. Just anything you want some tomato flavoring in. So anyhow, wanted to show you how it looked when it was done. Okay, so it's full. It's actually over the top. Like skin there. Yep. Okay, so turn this on. Right now I'm just going to start at 300. And this way they're kind of defrosting, and you can see all that water just from, you know, from being frozen. So a lot of that water I'm going to ladle out of there as it cooks down. So anyhow, so there we are with that. Okay, and I thought I'd show you really quick. Because these were frozen and they're tomatoes, they do have water in them. So this is what I do. I mean, maybe other people do it differently. But these are starting to cook down in the roaster, and there's a lot of water. So I just take a ladle, because picking the roaster up and trying to drain it, number one, it's hot. Number two, it's really heavy. So right now I'm just trying to get out some of the water. Okay, hi everyone. I got the mowing done, I got some weeding done. So I am gonna go to the next step with my tomato sauce, spaghetti sauce. I got my Vitamix mixer out, and what I'm gonna do is just start pureeing what's in here. So I also removed, you know, I showed you before I started doing other things, this bowl, it's a nice size bowl. I don't know, there's probably like 8 cups in here. So I probably ended up removing probably 14 cups of water, and also kept cooking it down. So what I'm gonna do, try something different. I don't want to dirty a bunch of pans, so I'm gonna take, so battery went dead, so I had to put a fresh battery in. But anyhow, I am going to fill this pitcher with some of the tomatoes. Here, and blend it up. hopefully I'm pureeing the seeds too. I'm gonna pour it right back in. Okay, and I'm going to continue to do that until I get through this whole pot pan roaster of tomatoes. So I'll bring it back when I'm done. Okay, and these onions were from the garden. Right now, just cleaning the garlic. Add the sauce. Okay, the next thing I want to add is Italian seasoning. Probably a couple tablespoons. And then of course I'm going to taste it, and if I need to add more, I will. And I am going to add some pepper. I don't know, probably about a teaspoon. A teaspoon of salt. There's a pink Himalayan. Because remember, it's fresh tomatoes. There's nothing, no seasoning whatsoever, so. Oh, and sugar. Okay, and the sugar, I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons. Okay, so I'm going to do a little taste test. I mean, it's still got to cook, and then I'm going to taste it again, but just to get an idea. More sugar. It's a big pot. I'm going to add 3 heaping tablespoons. Mix that in. I'm going to add a little more Italian seasoning. That's probably a good heaping teaspoon. Okay, give it another try. So far it's tasting good. I'm gonna let it go now for now, because it's gotta, you know, marinate into the sauce, cook into the sauce. So I might have to add more of something, but not quite yet. So, all right, added all that. Right now, I'm turning it to 300.
so I can cook some more.
So I'm going to go ahead and grab different things that you're going to need for canning. Different utensils. Most importantly, I would definitely invest in one of these ball book of canning. Okay, so I went ahead and gathered different things that, you know, if you've never canned before and you're not sure what you need a very large pot. And actually this is a canner here. You've probably maybe seen them in the store. And this actually, my son gave it to me. It was a wedding gift, but they never used it, so he gave it to me. So, and here you want something like this on the bottom. And I used to have a rack in here, and the handles would actually hang over the side. And usually if you buy a canner, it will have that rack in there where you set the jars in. But it was getting all rusty, so I ended up just getting rid of it. And you can order another one if you want. I just haven't done that. So instead I have these, because you don't want the jars touching the bottom of the canner, you know, that's directly on the stove. So I put that in there and the jars sit on that. But anyhow, okay, so here is the canner. And I don't know how much they are right now in the stores, but it's a very large pot. And this holds, I think I've had, I don't know, 7 or 8 quarts in here. And this is a quart jar right here. So that's another thing, you need the canning jars. So I'm gonna put this over here for now. The other thing, you know, if you're gonna can by the quart, this is a quart. I like the wide mouth. And here is a pint. And this is also a wide mouth. And by wide mouth, the rim is just a lot bigger. Here's a small one. This I have the calendula in, but that's a small mouth. You can see the difference. So this takes a different lid than this. So, and usually if you're buying the jars for the first time, it will have the lids that go with it. But through time, and you know, I give jars away, and once you use these for canning, these lids, you can't reuse them, not for canning. So this is a wide mouth jar lid, which will go on the quart. These all still have to be washed. I haven't done that yet. But anyhow, that'll go on there like that. And then you also need the wide mouth size band. And with canning, during the canning process, you need to have these. So, just things to think about. And the other is, and I will put these in very hot water and let them sit. So a nice good thing, this is a magnet. So when they're in the hot water, you can take it out of the hot water using this. So those are the lids. And the band you need. The jars. Another good thing to have is, I can't think of what you call it. I can't think of what I call it. Anyhow, it just makes it where you're not slopping it all over. You don't want to ladle the sauce right into the jar. You want to have something like this. Funnel. Yay, I think a funnel. Okay, so you put that on there, you ladle into this. So you're keeping the mess down to a minimum. So one of these, they have really large ones. This one is called a debubbler and also your measurer. So like this, it has, oops, see that right here? This has different measurements. So a quarter space, some, the recipes call, you fill up your jar up to a quarter, you need a quarter head space or a ½ inch. Here's an inch all the way up to this first notch up here. So you would go on the jar like this. And that's how you measure, leaving like an inch headspace, 3/4 inch headspace. And the headspace is between where your content is and the top of the jar. So this is another, and it's a debubbler. So you want to make sure when you fill your jars up that you have this and it gets out any bubbles before you put your lid on for canning, because once you're canning, it could settle down. If you don't get all the bubbles out, you know, it could settle down another inch, and you really don't want that. So you want to make sure you get the bubbles out, just you gently, and I'll show you. And the other thing, of course, is to remove your jars, or even putting them in your hot water bath. And I don't know, the grabber. So those are, now when you can tomatoes, to make it safe canning, you can add either, with following the directions, either citric acid or fresh or jarred lemon juice. You can't use fresh lemon juice, fresh from the lemon, because it's not the same as this. And you want to use real lemon juice in a bottle from the grocery store. And whatever the recipe calls for, lemon, let me see, 1 tablespoon. Yeah, this is calling for a tablespoon of lemon juice, and you put that in each jar that you're going to put the sauce in. And if you're using citric acid, you're adding a 1/4 teaspoon of citric acid to each jar, and that's for preserving, and that makes it safe. You know, there's people that didn't use lemon juice or citric acid, and some people say, oh, that's not a problem. I'd rather be safe than sorry. I mean, that's just how I feel about it. You know, so I'm going to tell you the safe way and the way the Ball book tells you. And so for seasoned tomato sauce, this is seasoned tomato sauce. I will be putting the jars in the canner. You know, and you put the, you know, once you put that lid on, I'll show you, and then you put your band on. It's always just fingertip tight. You don't want to go like that. You don't want it too loose, but you don't want it too tight. If you do it too tight, it could cause it to buckle. So you remove the air bubbles, adjust the headspace. I'm trying to see how far they say to keep it from the top. Oh, 1/2 inch headspace for your spaghetti sauce. At least the recipe that I'm following, it's going to be a 1/2 inch. And on this tool, it does show you the 1/2 inch, so that would be like right there. And the other most important thing you need to do, besides having all your stuff ready, I also have some white vinegar. I wipe, you know, when I add the tomato sauce before I put the lids on, I do wipe it down with a paper towel, and I do pour a little bit of vinegar on the paper towel to make sure these rims stay nice and clean before I put the lid on. Because if there's any food on here and then you're canning, it can do an improper seal, and you don't want that either. So I do have that. And the next, the very first thing, of course, you're going to do is wash, clean, sterilize your jars before canning. And of course, these are all new lids. You're always going to use brand new lids. Okay, everyone, it is now Sunday. So yesterday I was going over making my spaghetti sauce that I was going to be canning. So today I'm going to be canning. And last night, you know, it cooked for so much, cooked down so much, and I took the sauce to spaghetti sauce and put it in the refrigerator, because you really don't want it to sit out all night. Plus I had to work today, so it was going to be several hours before I got back to it. So as soon as I got home, I went ahead and put it back in the roaster and started cooking down a little bit more, and it's delicious. I went ahead and I had some eggplant out of the garden, so I went ahead and made, I call it the lazy eggplant parmesan, and it turned out wonderful. And to get it really cooked good, I went ahead and cooked it probably a little over an hour, about an hour and 10 minutes. I tried a little after about 45 minutes of cooking, and the eggplant needed to be cooked a little bit more. But the way I do the lazy eggplant parmesan, it's baked in the oven, and that's what it looks like, and it's totally delicious. So I put sliced eggplant, I take all the skin off, I put sliced eggplant on the bottom, and then I shredded some mozzarella cheese, and then I use an Italian breadcrumb. I use the Progresso Italian breadcrumbs. And so I put the mozzarella cheese, shred that, then I sprinkle a little bit of this on there, and then do another layer of the eggplant sliced. And also I take the skin off. I'm not a fan of the skin. To me, it's kind of tough. So then I do another layer of mozzarella cheese, and then I do another layer of the breadcrumbs, and then keep repeating. And the very top layer, oh, and of course in between each layer I also use the spaghetti sauce. So since I had this big roaster full of spaghetti sauce from the garden, I put the eggplant, spaghetti sauce, mozzarella cheese, the breadcrumbs, and just keep repeating. And the last layer is the spaghetti sauce and the shredded mozzarella cheese, and I top it with the Italian breadcrumbs. It's quick, it's easy, and I cooked it at 350 for probably about an hour and 10 minutes. And the first half hour I did cover it, and then the last half hour, 40 minutes, it was uncovered. So anyhow, it's totally delicious and really easy to make. Okay, so the things that you want, and I poured some of the lemon juice just in a little container there, because you put a tablespoon in each jar, and that is for safe canning. You do that. I do it. Some people haven't done it. You can also use citric acid, but anyhow, I'm using lemon juice, and you want to use lemon juice in a jar. You don't want to use fresh squeezed lemon juice. This is better to use is in the jar. Okay, so okay, here's the jar, and now I'm going to put the funnel on, and oops, got to do a tablespoon of lemon juice. And then fill it. Okay, got that one full. I use the debubbler. And you measure to a 1/2 inch. And it does drop down. I mean, the debubbler, it really gets any excess bubbles out of there. Just gonna take a little out. So I'm at the 1/2 inch headspace room. And that's perfect. Then I'm taking the paper towel that I had the vinegar on, going to clean this glass top of the lid off, or top of the jar. And I'm going to get another lid. Then on here. And just fingertip tight. And I'm going to take this and move it over to the canner. And I mean, I like putting my hand underneath it. Of course, when it comes out, when they're hot, and these are warm, they're not like boiling hot, but I like to keep my hand underneath there because just to help in case a little bit of the grip gets lost. Okay, so you can see all the jars are in there, and the water is above the jars probably about maybe an inch. And so right now I'm going to wait for it to come to a full boil. Once it comes to a full boil, that's when you start timing it. And for spaghetti sauce, the Ball Book of Canning says 35 minutes. So I'm going to put the lid on it just to speed up, to bring it to a boil. Okay, so I wanted to show you this. It is now coming to a rolling boil. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and cover it and turn the timer on for 35 minutes. Okay, 35 minutes. Lid back on. And now we wait. And that's basically it for canning. At the very end, I'll show you, you have to let it sit. You should let it sit at least 5 minutes after you turn the stove off. I have a gas stove, it shuts off immediately, and I do let it sit 5 or 10 minutes, because if you take it immediately out of the canner when it's done, it could actually start siphoning out, and you can lose half of your whatever food preserve you have in there, and actually the whole thing, because you just ruined the seal. Okay, so I thought I'd bring it back, clean up the kitchen a little, and the timer is about to go off. We got about a little over 15 seconds. Just to show you what I do when the timer goes off. Okay, there goes the timer, and I'm going to shut off the stove. And now I'm going to do the timer again. I'm going to do it for 10 minutes. This way I know they sat at least 10 minutes before I take the jars out. And when I take them out, I'll bring it back again. Okay, so the timer just went off. The timer went off when the canning processing was done, and then I set the timer for another 10 minutes just so I know I can take the jars out now. So that's what I'm going to do. And of course I'm going to use, you know, the grabber. And when you take them out, you want to keep them as straight up as you can. And there's the first jar. I'm putting them down on a cutting board, and it has a towel on it because you don't want to put it right on your countertop, because the countertop is cool to touch. So that could be a dramatic temperature change, and it could actually crack the jar. So, and you don't want to tilt the jar a lot. I do slightly, just get some of the water off on top. And of course I put a towel underneath. And hopefully while I'm removing them, you'll start hearing some popping, because you want to listen for the popping. That is when the seals or the jar lids are sealing, and that's something very important you want to listen for. And I don't have the jars touching each other, but I just want to make room so they all fit on there. Okay, so that's all 7 quarts out of the canner, and you're just going to let them sit. You don't want to touch them, you don't want to move them, at least 12 to 24 hours. And throughout, you know, this cooling period, I'm going to start hearing some popping. Wish they would have done it while the camera's running, but and then once it's done, I do remove the outer band on the lids, and I do wipe down the jars. You can wash them off, whatever you want to do to get any of the outside, if any tomato sauce is on there, you want to get that off. And I do remove these lids. You don't want to leave them on because there is moisture still underneath there, and these are metal rings and they will rust, and I don't want rusting on my jars. So I do remove that outer band. When I say the outer band, I'm talking like, you know, this band. This is the chamomile tea that was dried. And basically, that's it. So, it's not hard. The remainder of the spaghetti sauce, I went ahead and I did put in the freezer. I put in 3 containers because it just wasn't enough to do another canning process. So, right now I got 7 quarts out of that, which was 11 gallon-sized bags of the tomatoes that I cored and cut on the bottom, and I showed the whole process of how I remove the skin. And I still have them in these tomato skins in the dehydrator. I had it shut off because I did have to work, and I don't like leaving, you know, something like that running while I'm at work, so it's back on again. And the most important thing is just having the utensils and, you know, a good book. This book is Ball Canning Book, Home Preserving, Complete Book of Home Preserving. It does give you recipes in here. It gives you the processing time, whether you can use a water bath canner or whether you have to use a pressure canner. Certain foods you have to use a pressure canner. Spaghetti sauce, the tomatoes you could do in the water bath canner. But again, I mean, this will give you all the instructions. I do my jellies in a water bath canner. And as long as you follow the directions, and I mean, my first time I ever canned, I did not watch a video or anything. I just read, but it was confusing to me as far as like the lemon juice. I added it to the whole pot, which was not correct. As you've seen, I was adding a tablespoon of lemon juice to each jar. So, you know, I found that out later, and I'm really funny about it. I mean, this was tested and for safety. So the whole point of that is just you really need to follow the directions as far as safety goes. Because, you know, if you're going to feed that to your family or friends or give jars away, you want to make sure that it's safe. That's my opinion. So, anyhow, this is a great book to invest in. Like I said, it has a lot of different beautiful recipes in here, different colored pages. This book was $24.95. I don't know if I paid that much. Probably I did. I think I got it on Amazon. But it gives so much detail on how to can. And really, I mean, the best advice I can give before you can anything is to read the total instructions, so you're not skipping any steps, and then keep it out and refer to it as you're canning. But anyhow, I wanted to share that for anybody that has not canned and thought about doing it. I want to share that it's not that difficult. The pressure canner to me is a little intimidating, and it's still intimidating, and it shouldn't be. If you follow the instructions, the canner has instructions for the pressure canner. And actually, the big pot I have over there, you can also use another pot. If you're doing a small, you know, like pint size, you can use anything where you know you can cover. If you want to do like this, would probably do 4 pint size jars. You just want to make sure there's at least 1 inch water above the jars. You know, so you don't have to have a canner. But some people I've seen where they put a towel in the bottom, just where your cans or your jars are not on the very bottom of the pot. So, anyhow. And I guess that's it. So I wanted to share that with you guys. And I will be doing some, I'm going to do a video on making cowboy candy. Okay, so yesterday I finished up that canning. They were sitting on the counter. But you want to make sure when you're done that you do mark it. So I have spaghetti, and I also put 9 in the year 23. So this way I know it was done in the month of September in the year 2023, and it turned out beautiful. I did take the jars and I washed them all to make sure there was no residue on there. I did remove the bands from the jars, and these will now go into storage to use later. And that easy. So just wanted to share that, and you guys have a wonderful day. Talk to you later.